We've made a few videos like this. What would happen if Africa turned into one country? Or what if the whole world turned into one country? We even made a video about South America. But we got a lot of suggestions to make a clip about what would happen if the entire Middle East turned into one country. When you look at the Middle East or Western Asia, you see problems everywhere. You see Egypt, it has a bunch of problems. Palestine and Israel have been at it for more than 70 years. Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, which we've made a video on. And in Afghanistan, the different ethnic groups can't get along with each other. The issue started when the Ottoman Empire collapsed and the Europeans came along and cut it into sections that don't even make sense. They drew borders that are not real, and we talked about this in the video about the geography of Iraq. To destroy the Ottomans, the English told the Arabs to fight against these guys to get your own country. But when they actually defeated the Ottomans, the British did not keep their promise, and they didn't give it to one Arab kingdom. They drew different lines in this area and put their own puppets in charge, like Faisal I of Iraq. The British promised the Arabs that if you defeat the Ottomans, south of the Turkey border will be your country. And basically, this one area would be a nation. But after they were successful, the British didn't keep their promise, and anyone that complained was gotten rid of. They drew it in a way where none of these countries are going to be a powerhouse, and just because of geography, they will stay weak. The Saudis was a tribe that lived around the Riyadh capital you see today. They told the Saudis, if you get rid of the other tribes, you could have this area for your own. They did that, and the area that is called Saudi Arabia today was given to them by the British after they defeated the other tribes. And they even named it after their tribe, Saudi Arabia. On the border of the Persian Gulf, they gave it to different sheikhs that was basically the British puppets. And the Middle East was formed. This story continues until we get to World War II. The US has a very strong navy, and Saudi Arabia has the most amount of oil. In the Persian Gulf, Franklin D. Roosevelt meets Ibn Saud on one of US's Navy ships. He tells the Saudis, if you want to stay in power, we will help you, but as long as you sell your oil with the US dollar. After this, these two become best friends. Let's get back to the Middle East. After World War II, a couple new countries were formed. Back then, Palestine was Jordan and Palestine. They separated Jordan, and Palestine turned into Israel, and the northern Palestine turned into Lebanon. Either way, they manufactured this area in a way where nobody gets along with each other. The tension wasn't that low, they added Israel, and you could say they are the Arabs' #1 enemy. They even had a few wars against each other. After World War II, another thing gets in the way of this area. The Cold War, when the Soviet Union and the West want to control the most amount of land on this earth. One of the most important areas that these two had their eyes on was the Middle East. These two wanted to control the most amount of land in the Middle East, and the main reason was oil. These two superpowers tried to be best friends with as much nations as possible in this area. In the Middle East, the US always tried their best to not let Middle East nations become communists, especially Iran and Saudi Arabia. The Soviets had control in Iraq, but they didn't have much control in other nations. Since the Soviets wanted to reach the Persian Gulf, they attacked Afghanistan, and after Afghanistan, they had plans to attack Iran. But the US saw that they're getting beaten, so they had to change the game. They tell themselves that we have to make the Islam religion extremely powerful in this area, and Islam will stand against communism. If you didn't know, USSR was an atheist nation because they didn't believe any god. Their god was communism. This was the Achilles heel of the Middle East. And the Westerners keep advertising just that. What the West did to communism, it basically made the Middle Easterners hate communism. Either way, this form of advertisement made this area change for the worse. Like this picture is taken in Kabul in 1978, but a few years later, this is the pictures in Kabul. Before that time, Saudi Arabia was the most radical Islamic country, but after this situation, the entire Middle East became radical. The reason most countries in the Middle East hated communism was that the West mostly had Christian people, so they sided with them rather than the atheists. And that really hurt the Soviets. Just like we said, they become more religious, but they still have a lot of problems with each other. Like in Iran and Iraq, mostly they're Shia Islams. Saudi Arabia is the different type of Muslim called the Wahhabi. Some parts of Iraq and Syria are a different type of Sunni called the Alawi. Egypt, there's a Sunni and a lot of Christians. Israel is 75% Jewish and the rest are Muslim. They made this area very religious, but they engineered it in a way where everybody hates each other and they don't get along whatsoever. The other one wants to eliminate the other one. Just because of all this, a lot of terrorist groups formed, like the Taliban in the 1990s, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, terrorist groups just to kill innocent people. The religious problems are not the only issues. There is a lot of ethnic problems as well. Ethnicities that were made up by the British, and with that, they tried to separate the people and not get along. And by doing that, they made the Middle East never unite and always fight, so they have the control. And if they actually unite, an extremely powerful empire will be formed, like the Achaemenid Persian Empire, a completely united Middle East and a superpower. So unfortunately, with the situation we have right now, the Middle East will not unite. If you look at the entire Middle East, everybody is the same, and they've been together for thousands of years and you can't separate them. But there are hands in the way that always want to separate this area. It is important that people everywhere in the world learn about their own history and try to get along with one another. They should learn so they have more knowledge rather than hate.